This is Brian Shannon. I'm the founder of Shannon & Associates, and I welcome you to this brief presentation on 10 target setting tips, tricks, and traps for your healthcare organization's cost reduction initiative. I'm the founder of Shannon & Associates, and we are an independent consulting firm that partners with leadership teams in healthcare organizations to produce cost reductions ranging from $5 to $100 million. Over my 30-year career, I've been a strategic cost management consultant and advisor to senior executives and board members in over 300 healthcare organizations. The key to our success? We hardwire our 8 habits of highly effective cost management into your organization's DNA to strengthen execution capacity and lower cost. By leveraging the hidden reserve of your in-house experts, your organization no longer needs to rely on outside firms year after year to improve performance. This is a brief presentation on target setting for cost reduction. Fast-tracking target setting is one of the keys to success and one of our 8 habits of highly effective cost management. So first, some context, meeting the cost reduction challenge in brief. What is our point of view? First, there's no shortage of opportunities to reduce cost. There is, however, a shortage of results. There are literally hundreds of ideas to improve performance in healthcare organizations, but only a small fraction ever get implemented. Why is there such difficulty executing on identified initiatives and opportunities? We believe there's the need to hardwire the 8 habits of highly effective cost management to help your organization to push through the execution barriers that are blocking the effective implementation of the identified improvement initiatives. Secondly, to strengthen accountability and sustainability of results, and ultimately to improve the organizational effectiveness of your hospital or system. As challenging and grim as execution barriers may be, there is a bright side. These barriers can account for such significant losses that if your organization is willing to confront these barriers by introducing new habits and routines, you'll produce a huge impact and major gains. Setting expectations that actually evoke maximum performance may be your executive's single weakest skill. Once you've clearly defined the financial needs of your organization and cost reduction opportunities, it's essential to quickly set targets before you do anything else. This may seem counterintuitive for many. How can we set targets before we know exactly if we can meet the targets? So here are our 10 tips for setting targets, which is a key to success. First, goal setting is not the same as target setting. The goal is how much money your organization needs to achieve. The targets are the means by which you're going to hold your folks accountable for the achievement of that goal. So a $10 million goal needs to be translated to hundreds and hundreds of targets that get disseminated to the managers, directors, executives, physician leaders in your organization. Second, targets must be set on a top-down basis. Cost reduction plans can be set and established on a bottom-up process, but targets need to be set at the senior leadership level and communicated down. This is essential because the time that's spent setting targets will directly impact savings realized. This is a huge takeaway. If your organization needs to fully realize a $10 million cost reduction goal within a year, but it takes you 6 months to actually nail down targets, the first year goal in effect becomes $20 million because you've delayed the development of the plans and the execution of the plans to meet your first year cost reduction goal. Fourth, while targets are a critical path and they're absolutely essential, they are not sufficient. They need to be followed up with comprehensive plans that address all aspects of labor, non-labor costs, human resources costs, physician productivity, physician compensation costs, and the like. But it's important that the plans be developed, targets be established, plans developed, and then the plans get executed to meet your cost reduction goals. 5, stretch targets must allow for slippage. Typically, there's as much as a 20% slippage due to the failure to fully execute plans. This needs to be factored into the establishment of the targets themselves. If your goal is to reduce cost by $10 million on an annual recurring basis, it may be necessary to set targets that add up to as much as $12 million in cost reduction. So $12 million in targets may be necessary to be communicated in order to get a $10 million cost reduction goal. Sixth, targeted RN to patient ratios, which are an area of focus on nursing units, may produce actual patient loads that are some 15% lower or less productive than those targeted ratios. And that has to do everything with census variability and the difficulty of flexing staff to changes in census. 7. Benchmarking is not the same as target setting. While benchmarkings provide useful comparative data, they are not targets by which people will be held accountable. Benchmarking is only one input to target setting. As referenced previously, benchmarks can be very helpful, can inform the target setting process, but there can be other inputs that you may want to consider in addition to or in lieu of benchmarks as the basis for establishing targets. It may be executive judgment and familiarity with the areas of over or underperformance in your organization, historical trends, as well as budgetary performance. 9. It's important to understand that targets can be set in the absence of benchmarks. There are going to be many departments, perhaps as many as 15 to 25% of your departments, programs, and services, where benchmarking data may not be available as an input to target setting. The lack of benchmarks for these areas cannot exempt these departments from the cost reduction target setting process. The assumption at a minimum should be that these departments at least share proportionally in the cost reduction effort. Historical and budgetary performance can be considered as inputs to the target setting process in the absence of benchmark data. Lastly, important to understand that an unwillingness to set targets will doom your organization's cost reduction effort to fail. It is the absolute critical path that needs to be established before plans can be established, before accountability can be strengthened, before results can be tracked effectively. If your organization has a need to reduce cost, would like to discuss this approach further with us, we encourage you to call us at the phone number listed here on this slide or to visit our shannonconsulting.com website. Thanks for your time and attention and your interest in target setting tips, tricks, and traps.